Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught. Jelani Woods, touchdown!
Yes.
43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up, got it! And Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hey, everybody, how are you? Appreciate you being with us here on this Thursday. Another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, February 8th. Glad to have you. Glad to be had. Appreciate everybody joining us on the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Don't forget, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, powered by Andy Moore Honda. Just go to andymoorehonda.com and get more to your door for the best in new and used vehicles. And, of course, our good friends at places like Hoosier Hanks East, Free Think, Chop Shop, Market and Table. Lots to get to today on the program. Shannon Griffith will join us. Cal Neddenriep. We'll talk some basketball, as the games for the boys will be probably a lot on the docket for tonight, being that it's Thursday and the girls' tournament has begun. So we'll look forward to talking about that. In addition, Rick Bozich and Denari. Looking forward to that as well. So appreciate you being with us. And lots to talk about. Don't forget, hit the subscribe button if you're following us on YouTube. Even if you're following us on one of our great affiliates like 97.7 ESPN, The Ref, always the right call down on the river in Evansville. Or the voice of the region, AM 1230, 104.7 WJOB in Hammond and Chicago area. Across the state at 1380 The Fan, 100.9 in Fort Wayne also. You can hit that subscribe button, like I said, just for the content if you may miss, because we've always got things that we're adding to that, post-game shows, exclusive interviews, etc., like the one coming up with Trent Sisley here soon that we'll have out for you in addition to a story. I went down and watched him play last week. Not only that, I was not the only one there. Mike Woodson, Matt Painter, Micah Shrewsbury, all there that night. So that was a good night to go. I want to give a huge thanks to everyone, and I should probably wait to do this until a little later. Just remind me to do it again, John Boy, but we just hit 2 million views. Speaking of YouTube, we hit 2 million views like in October. Just after being on that format for like 2 years, we're already at 2.5 million. Dun. So thank you guys. Appreciate you. But of course that means we just got to keep putting the content out, which we will. Let's see. We'll get to that again later. How about the kid that's suing Deadspin? The Kansas City Chiefs fan. John, have you seen this?
No, I haven't seen this.
All right. So this kid is a Chiefs fan. He, I guess, goes to all the Chiefs games and paints his face. And paints it in their colors. And one side is like orange, whatever that. What color is that? That the Chiefs
colors?
Yeah,
it's almost like obviously it's generally just known as red, but it's kind of a brighter pinkish red almost.
Yeah, it's got whatever it is. So he's got that on half side of his face. The other side is black, and Deadspin called a 9-year-old kid a racist. He's also wearing a Native American chief headdress, but that's not what this was about. which is the ironic thing, of the one thing you could have probably picked to call somebody a racist over was that. But they didn't. Not that I would have said that. I don't. But they take a picture of half of the kid's face, just the black side, the one that was painted with black, and said he was being racist and wearing blackface. That was dumb. Oh boy, was that dumb. Dumb in just the common sense level, first of all. And that shows you how stupid people have become. But his parents aren't dumb. They've got attorneys. They're suing Deadspin. Their attorneys, how good are they at this sort of thing? Well, let's see. They won a $786 million media defamation lawsuit last year.
I tell you what, it makes you wonder if they set this up to do it again. If they knew something like this would happen.
If who did?
If the parents are like, you know what, maybe somebody will catch our son and accuse him of something, kind of thing.
No, this is too stupid. This is too stupid, and it's being done by a nationally recognized outlet. Just dumb. Just dumb. I mean, I'm dumb. I think I'm dumb, but I'm always, as much as it may not seem to be, and I'm going to sneeze, excuse me. I always,
there we go.
Woo, I knew it was coming. Pardon me. I always try to watch, what I'm saying, how I'm saying it, even though you get emotional and this, that, but that's just stupidity. That you're going out of your way to cause something. Well, this one's going to be, this could be catastrophic for them. Their attorneys won a $786 million lawsuit for a media defamation case. And they go after a 9-year-old boy by purposely setting. Oh, yeah. So you get what you deserve. You deserve what you get.
Yeah, we don't want to dig into the weeds, but you're right on the money, I feel like, on that.
Yeah, just stupidity. Just stupidity. Super Bowl coming up this weekend, of course. Speaking of the Chiefs, who's going to win that? Chiefs, 49ers. 49ers complaining about their practice surface at UNLV in Las Vegas. I saw. Halliburton had a great night. He's almost getting back to full strength. Look forward to talking to Chris Denari about that. Anthony Leal starting. This has become this thing that's starting to aggravate the ever-living crap out of me by fans. I'm sorry. But yeah, I just said I say what's on my mind generally, and I speak the truth. I try to always make sure that I'm speaking the truth. No boot looking, ass kissing goes on here. You know what? All of the people that are calling for this, first of all, do you know what position he plays? I have to wonder. Do even though it doesn't look like Indiana runs any kind of an offense, and that would be my first defense of this. Because if I was arguing with myself, this is what I would come back with. But generally, you have to have a point guard on the floor. Well, neither Anthony Leal nor Trey Galloway are point guards. Definitely, probably aren't point guards that could, in the Big Ten especially. But, one could argue that, Indiana doesn't really run offense. They just come down the floor, try to work it inside. And if that doesn't work, let's see what happens. But this, And this is nothing to do with Anthony Leal. He's a great kid. Happy, could not be happier for him. Hope he continues to have the year, this end of the year that he's having. But everybody, oh God, he's got to start at Purdue. Oh God, the heavens will fall if he doesn't. He deserves it. Are we handing out trophies now? We handing out trophies everywhere again? Deserves got nothing to do with it, in the immortal words of, oh man, what was Clint Eastwood's character? William Money's name in Unforgiven? Deserves got nothing to do with it. He's had some good moments on the floor, and I'm not saying he's not going to have more. I mean, for Indiana's sake, he should. But there are other members of the team. You're looking at people are taking small moments out of an entire game and encapsulating the whole game as if that's how it was. Well, that's not how it was. But gee whiz. I mean, it's just everywhere. All the fan sites, blah, blah, blah. Oh, Anthony Leal's got to start. Oh, God. It's to the point to where it's driving me nuts, and I feel bad for Anthony because of it. Hey, I'm not saying that it's not who starts, it's who finishes, number one. And Mike Woodson is not going to change his starting lineup. In addition to the fact, one of the reasons that Leo got to carry more of a load was because they weren't getting, Khalil Ware was in foul trouble in the last game. So it kind of really discombobulated their offense. There's just so much that goes into it. And to just run off and say, he should be starting. Oh, maybe he'll get to the line. He'll hit more free throws. Well, he was 3 of 6 against Ohio State for 50%. So there's that. And then it drives me nuts when fans get on this roll of ridiculousness. That's that stupid MTV show, isn't it? Ridiculousness. But the biggest thing of all is they're getting diddly dick from their bench. So if they don't have Anthony Leal coming off of the bench, who in the hell is going to provide production? Because when he's on the bench and Cups is starting the game, you've got Renew and Ware, Galloway, and Mbako starting out there. And unless things go bad with fouls or whatnot, they're going to get a good run in. Then you bring in Anthony Leal and you bring in someone that you expect to get some production from. But if you reverse that, who's the production coming from? Or who are you going to sit? I'm no coach. I don't claim to be. I don't claim to be an expert. I do claim to have common sense. I do claim to, having been around athletics for as long as I have, to be around the people that I have the great fortune to be around and talk to constantly about these things, that I try to learn something from that. So there's that. But big game coming up this weekend. Indiana travels to Purdue. Man, that could be a bloodbath for Indiana. Let's hope that it's not, for the fans' sake. But Indiana is going to have to show out every single minute of that game. And even with that, that might keep them within 15. I don't know what Indiana can do in this game on the road. It will take a special game offensively and defensively for them to stay close with Purdue. Purdue's playing pretty well right now. Big upset last night. We've got to take a break. Shannon Griffith joining us up next. Daggone it. Who went down last night? Damn it.
We can check during the break. We'll take a look.
Shannon Griffith's going to join us up next from Hoosier Tailgate, and perfect timing. Yesterday, we got to speak with Curt Cignetti as we brought that to you here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, National Signing Day. We'll talk about that and much more here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio by our good friends from Hoosier Hanks East. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello.
Man, one of these days, damn it, you got to come on without that damn guitar in the background. It's got to be right here. And you got a little ditty. Ditty about Jim and Shannon. Talk about sports in the morning.
By the way, Jim, Michigan beat Wisconsin last night.
That's what it was. Thank you very much. That's what I was looking for.
Candidly, I believe.
Wisconsin lost 3 straight.
Gosh, what a bad loss.
Oh, not only that, I've said it the other night when Indiana beat Ohio State. Ohio State looks like the worst team in the Big Ten, and everybody keeps saying, "Oh, it's Michigan." Well, they just beat Wisconsin's ass.
I mean, they can still be the worst team and have a good game. I mean, they're 8 and whatever.
I don't know that they are.
Ohio State's got 4 or 5 more wins than Michigan does.
Yeah, but those came early in the year. They got their good
wins.
Where
did Michigan's wins come from other than last night? Anywhere?
Well, last night's what I'm talking about, and it was a big one. It's a top 10 team.
Juwan Howard's going to be fired by the end of the year. I don't think they're any.
I'm not disagreeing or agreeing or disagreeing with that. I don't know where they are in contract and all that stuff, but yeah, Gritty, you're not lying. She ain't lying. What am I? That's from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Sound like you were doing the Lollipop Guild.
Well, it is a person that is, let's say, not of my height. Speaking of watching what you say and how you say it, you say, we're going to sweep this state clean. He ain't lying. But the Big Ten does suck. There is no question about that. Shannon, there's talk about not an alliance, but and I can't say partnership because Sankey said, yeah, we got to watch what word we use because of this stupid Kevin Warren, ACC, whomever alliance they had back in the day that lasted like 10 minutes. Long enough for the Big Ten to screw everybody over, but God, how bad he was horrible. Why? See, here's what I don't get.
Hold on, we're coming back. Here we go.
For filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by the Chop Shop, home of the Indiana football and men's basketball coaches shows. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Thank you so much for being with us here on this Thursday. Grateful to have you. As I lose my earpiece, Shannon Griffith from Hoosier Tailgate, and joins us each and every week to talk Hoosier and Big Ten football. Signing day, and we got to talk to a much more subdued and relaxed Curt Cignetti yesterday. I mean, the first thing that I noticed or felt was like, I'm like, man, did somebody give the dude some Xanax? He's all chilled out. He's relaxed.
celebrating that the recruiting is over for now.
Yeah.
He's had enough of the recruiting trail.
Well, because they had to hit it almost double hard. Especially not only with first of all, a coaching change that doubles your job. Number one, go into a coaching change to where you're going into a program that's in the dumpster. Now you've quadrupled it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can only imagine what that has been like. And you look at Kalen DeBoer. I don't know if I mentioned this on the air the other day, but I was reading stuff and I'm like, people accusing him of tampering and all this. And it wasn't true. It was a damn lie. You had to, the father of the kid who end up going to Arizona, I think maybe. But anyway, he has to come out and say, that's not true. I have never spoken to Kalen DeBoer or anyone from Alabama. I don't know what this is even about. And it's like, all that is some petty jealousy out there starting stuff, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, this, like I said, I think we talked about this last week, is recruiting has become as important as you see the NFL draft in some ways has become on TV, and it's a 24-hour news cycle, but this goes on for much longer. Yesterday for, IU, I mean, it was a non-eventful day in that respect, because they had all their, class kind of put to bed back in December when they had that signing date. Now, he did reference that there is a potential for this transfer portal window to reappear. And we talked about the NCAA and the injunction that's against them from preventing kids from double transferring, which is still
crap.
Yeah,
which is crap.
Which is still a possibility, and good or bad, I guess you could say. And I think he kind of alluded to that. But, they got a chance to work on the 25s, eyeball the 26s, get out, shake some hands, really get entrenched in that, Indiana area that's going to be pretty fruitful for them to recruit year in, year out, as well as some of those outlying areas in Illinois and Ohio. But I don't know. He basically is going on vacation. I mean, he basically told the staff they're gone and he's out on vacation. His wife told him, you're going on a vacation here for a couple of days. And I imagine they'll probably take about 5 or 6 days and get away for a little bit. And as you've seen, the kids are fully entrenched in the winter workouts, the winter, conditioning that's going on frequently now. I think we've spent a lot of time talking about the transfers from JMU and how valuable they will be as it pertains to the standard that is expected in and out of the weight room. And I think Coach Signetti alluded to that even yesterday. I thought overall, like you said, I thought he was pretty even keel with his approach to things. He dropped some spiritual wording on us at times with his ability to throw out some wording there that you're like, what did he just say? In that regard. But overall, I think he's pretty thankful for where he's at in terms of what he's got coming in and what is already in place and in the weight room right now.
Well, I can tell you who won't be in there buffing up, and that's going to be me. I can't. This is it. This is all I can do with this.
Yeah, I gave up that a long time ago.
Yeah, me too.
I wish I wouldn't have. Now looking back on it as a wise old man, but too many body parts that have been replaced on me. So,
the one thing that is going to be very, very interesting that I look at right now is that, okay, you got Kurt Signetti who's come in, brought a new system in. his system that he's had a lot of success with at a different level with players from that level, most of which that he's bringing in, and even and basically the recruits that he's getting right now are also at that level. And I'm not knocking. I'm just pointing out. Well, I got to tell it to the fans. Otherwise, in about 2 seconds, I'll be hearing it. I wonder if as long as they can develop those guys, and when you have people like Bob Bostad, I'm like, that does not give me great pause, because I know you've got a coach in Bob Bostad that he can develop. Hell, I saw him do it in a short term.
Yeah.
I saw him take a crap line and get lemonade out of lemons.
Yeah.
So, and if that works, that's fine. That's what Bill Mallory's teams were built on.
Yeah.
Now this is a different era, but or is this just a bridge to show some success, which I think that it is. And once you get a little success, boom, now you start getting bigger boys, the bigger recruits. And my question to him, and John, if you'll pull this up when you get a chance, when I asked him yesterday, and just let me know when you have it, but it was specifically about in-state recruiting. Not that you have to have kids from Indiana, but it's landing the good kids from Indiana. Now, and I'm not talking about all of them. I'm just talking about get one, because they go to Ohio State or Michigan or Notre Dame, which not who blames them. I mean, the programs are rolling and NIL's bigger, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't expect you to beat them, but there are other programs that are still able to land guys within their states that are higher level than what Indiana's been able to do. But he talked about the importance of getting these guys and the relationships with the high school coaches. And that's kind of how this is going to start for him, by taking these three-star guys and turning them into better players.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think he made a point yesterday as well, is, he's got to erase the memory of what IU has been, which is in some respects ultimately impossible until he puts a product on the field that changes that mindset of those people within the state of Indiana, as well as the high school coaches that are around. But they've got to find ways to win some battles in the state of Indiana that keeps a kid from going to an Ohio State or Notre Dame or Michigan. And in order to do that, you have to win. You have to win. And once that is established, then you're going to have a chance to get those kids in Indiana that are being recruited by and coveted by the big boys all around the country. And I've talked about this before. There's a kid at Leo up here who's a big time recruit. Everybody and their brother is recruiting. Wisconsin.
And how big is Leo? Big as my fist?
3A. I believe they're 3A. 3A school.
Now, is that because of success? No, seriously, because I know they're not a very big school.
Well, they've gotten bigger because of the way the population up here in the Fort Wayne area has expanded. But Brock Scott is the kid that Wisconsin's entire staff came and watched him play. Miami of Florida flew all the way up with their complement staff on offense to visit with him. I mean, this kid is very sought after by everyone. I don't know where Indiana stands with the young man. I know he's been offered, but there's one example of a kid that if Indiana can put a product on the field, that kid's going to give them more thought in the process. And who knows, he may already be giving them more thought. But overall, yes, it's keeping a guard on your own state. And, you got an in-state rival, too, that you're going to fight against with Purdue. And, you got to win those battles as well.
Absolutely, because that puts you in the conversation, and that's a conversation that Indiana hopes to get to. But like I said, you have to crawl before you walk before you run, et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely.
I am gotten out of the year away prediction business. It's stupid, especially today's game. But boy, that big hairy butt always rears its head, doesn't it? You look at Indiana's schedule next year, the excitement that's going around, the possibilities with this coach. Not only do I fully expect Indiana to make a bowl game next year. Now, I may completely eat that sandwich after the first game, but no pun intended. I feel like because of the intensity that he is bringing, the attention to detail that he appears to be bringing, et cetera, all these things seem to be pointing Indiana in the right direction. It's not, there's none of this, and I'm not getting on Tom or anything, but none of this rah-rah, da-da-da. It's business, business. And there is no place that needs to be more about business than Indiana football.
Well, and again, you go back to his presser yesterday. The one thing he says, you have to win in football because that is where the money is generated at the gate and everything else that goes hand in hand with it. And he understands that more than anybody, that you have to win. He plans on winning right now. I mean, you don't hear him saying, we're going to attack this at, try to get to this point. Let's get to bowl eligibility first, and then we can decide whether or not we're going to, he's a full-throated wanting to come out of the gate winning. I respect that. And I'm sure the fan base, respects that in terms of his confidence, not only in himself, but what he's got in that locker room for him. I don't think we're going to come out of spring with a definite depth chart of, who's going to be the starting quarterback. I didn't get that impression yesterday that is the biggest thing on his mind right now as it pertains for this team. I think more or less he talked about teaching them how to practice, what to expect, the philosophical approach, being relentless, all those type of things that he talked about yesterday. But with their schedule in front of them, you have to have a positive look at what they have because of the number of home games they have next year. And that lends itself for them to have that magical breakout season in some respects. Kind of similar to, if you look at Buffalo, I hate to use this example because they, dived after that fourth win, but winning that first game for Indiana is going to be huge because that is going to be the one that gives them evidence of what they're doing now and what they'll do in the summer.
Yeah, but that's a no-brainer, though. I mean, they should win that game with me coaching.
But for a new staff that's coming in here and say we're going to win,
right?
You stumble out of the gate.
Well, no, you can't. I absolutely can't lose that game. But
right,
you want to do something? Go out to L.A. and beat UCLA.
No question, I agree with that.
That will light the. If that were to happen, and I'm not suggesting it does, but if it were, holy crap, you want to see a fan base just go absolutely ape crap.
Well, that's what happened to Colorado when they went to TCU and won. And I mean, not that Indiana's coming out of the gate playing somebody of that caliber, but the same mindset is what it does for not only the team that's in the locker room, but the fan base and things like that is a key component for what he's preaching outwardly.
Yeah, and I wonder if that win against TCU did not falsely set expectations too high for that Colorado team because they were exposed time and time again after that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they hit.
And that could be a problem for Indiana if they were to beat a UCLA team who you catch at the right time. And the way things looking, it could possibly be the right time to catch them.
Absolutely.
We got to take a break, John Boy. When we come, we'll come back and more with Shannon Griffith. And we'll hear from Kurt Signetti as well on the other side of the break. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Chop Shop Market and Table, where each and every Monday night at 7:05 you can find Inside Indiana Men's Basketball with your host Don Fisher and Indiana basketball coach Mike Woodson. Back right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
If you're looking for a home, John Boy, you want to play that just coming back out of break?
Yeah, that's fine. That's what you want to do.
That way I don't forget. That's the only way I'm not going to forget.
Actually, let's not do that because I'll be playing two things off of the same source. So if you just, what you want to do is come back, briefly mention again what the question was, because I don't have the question, I just have the answer. So you can come back and set the question up, and then I'll play the clip.
Not a problem.
A device planned.
I was, no matter what I asked yesterday, I was just waiting. I was just like going, all right.
Did you say Google me? You were waiting for that.
Like, hey, you should have told him that you Googled him before you
Yeah, that's the one thing I did notice yesterday was his demeanor.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I think what was so shocking the first time around is because if at any time in the world you're going to have the demeanor that he had yesterday, it would be at your very first introductory press conference.
Yeah, it would have been flipped. Yeah.
But he had it in his mind that he had to set a tone. There's no, and I don't care. I get it. Hey man, I don't, I mean, I would like to be in that position. Speaking of which, I mean to bring this up. I need you to get me a job. I need to save this, but as a football coach anywhere, and get me a good 6-year contract so I can get fired 2 years in and get paid unbelievable amounts of money for doing nothing and losing.
I agree. I'll take that as well. I mean,
holy snarkies.
I know. Well, how about Nick Saban? You know, he retires, so to speak, and next thing you know, he's on College Game Day, probably making more money than he was.
Is Lee Corso, is he done? Is he taking Lee Corso's spot?
I don't know if that has been established.
Oh, is he on? Oh, I knew he was going to be honest. He's going to be on Game Day.
Oh yeah, they've been setting that up for years. I don't necessarily.
Here's the thing, though. He doesn't have personality. He's got knowledge and is as smart as anybody, but Corso was just.
Yeah, he's a showman.
Yeah, even though he had a freaking stroke, he was still.
All right, here we go, guys.
Funny. 9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back on this Thursday. Almost made it to the weekend. Looking forward to it. Don't know why, just because it's the weekend. Although I normally don't go outside before the show because I'm getting ready, but I just needed to go take some stuff to the trash, actually. And I was like, damn.
It's warm.
It's warm. It's warm. What is this warmth in this early February? But glad to have it. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Shannon Griffith, whom you're going to be filling in on the Sports Rush this week, right?
As of right now, Friday, I believe.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah.
For those of you listening on 1380 The Fan, 100.9.
Right after
in Fort Wayne. Immediately after Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Tomorrow, you can hear Shannon hosting the Sports Rush. Appreciate you. Welcome back. Brought to you by Remax Realty, our good friend Cheryl Sizemore. If you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience. Could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. From a recruiting standpoint, Indiana is pretty well set up. To me, they're so much further along than they were a year ago. And I'm not saying that they have better players across the board, because they probably don't, because they had good players. But as a complete staff, as a staff that has been together, as a staff that has won, as a staff that has a plan, I could just add some more adjectival things to that, but there's no way that you see a coach that is as how we know Curt Cignetti is, but when you see him as relaxed as he was yesterday, it's still, am I going, damn, that's all I could think about. So for him to be relaxed, you know that he has to have had a lot taken off and to be able to feel like that.
Well, he's got everything in place. Like you said, he's got his coaching staff settled. He's got his support staff settled. He's working his plan and those type of things. So that in itself will take a lot of the day-to-day pressure off of his plate with everything going, especially like recruiting. And he's talked about, the staff that he's put in place for the recruiting aspect of it, for those guys that are behind the scenes doing all the evaluations and such. So that probably played a huge part of yesterday's in his approach to yesterday, just having that all in place. And it sounds like I'm assuming, this is a pure guess from me, but it sounds as if he's already settled in Bloomington with his wife and stuff. So, he's got back to that comfort feeling that he has on a day-to-day basis with having, family there, both on the staff, that family, as well as his home family. So that probably lended a lot to his demeanor as well.
Well, and speaking of why getting to that point, it's because recruiting season is over. And yesterday when we spoke with him, I asked him about Indiana had got commitments rather from 2025 offensive linemen, one from in-state and one from just across the border in Illinois. And I asked him about the importance of landing the in-state kids and the regional kids as far as developing the product that he plans to put on the field, and what his reception has been like around the state.
I mean, I don't care if you're the head coach at Indiana, Texas, or Idaho. You got to do a great job in your state, and we want to dominate our state best we can. And I made every effort to get out there and into the, key schools in January, meet people, talk with prospects, etc. Okay, after your state, now it's the border states and those 2 to 4 hour pockets where there's population and players, Cincinnati, Dayton, Chicago, St. Louis, Nashville, Louisville, Detroit, which is 5 hours, but, and there's players scattered in the Midwest, Southwest Michigan, etc. To me, that's where it all begins, especially in this day and age with the transfer portal. I mean, guys that grew up watching Big Ten football are more apt to stay in the program for 4 or 5 years than people that really didn't have that kind of bond with the Big Ten, the distance guys. Those are the ones you see go in the portal a little bit more often. That doesn't mean an Indiana guy can't go in the portal. We all know he can. But still, you got to be strong in your state. You got to be strong in the border states, that 4 hour radius. And then you got your distance areas.
Yeah, then you got the guys those are the guys you get on talent or relationships, those distance guys. Not that you can't get guys that are talented in state. I'm just saying when they're not close by, you're going after them for a reason, and that's generally strictly talent or because you have a relationship.
Yeah, and some of these areas too that he references to, like I give the example of Florida, where they're playing football almost year round, and those kids in Florida have a tendency to be a little bit more developed than a kid, let's say, in Indiana. However, I will say Indiana is getting a lot better, has gotten a lot better over the last several years, not with just kids working football specific drills in the off season, but as much as the coaches have their hands on the kids as opposed to years gone by. But, you know, he's got to win in those areas that he talked about: Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Louisville, Fort Wayne, you know, St. Louis, have some success up in the Chicagoland area. And then find those kids that maybe he's not finding quite good enough in the areas that he's, you know, heavily involved in. And that's why you said, Jim, you know, the relationships that they've established at the places they've been, whether it's Pennsylvania, whether it's the East Coast, whether it's Florida, Georgia, you know, wherever. That's definitely areas that they will pursue for those kids that maybe they're not getting enough of in the states that they're in.
I thought you were going to say Florida, Georgia line, but they're not even together anymore, are they?
No.
Which is good because I never listened to them anyway. I'm not into pop country, whatever the crap.
We're in that old country, Toby Keith, the gentleman that just passed away country. That's what we are.
See, that's not even and see, I can't even call that old because I grew up with that. And
I guess
old to me is the good stuff. Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, Waylon Jennings, baby.
I guess I may be referring to our age a little bit there. But
speaking of Waylon Jennings, I was watching a clip on the making of We Are the World, or I think it was We Are the World. They had Willie in there as one of the few. There weren't very many country people. Kenny Rogers and Waylon was there. But they were still fleshing out the song while they're trying to get this thing recorded because it was after the American Music Awards or something, and they're putting like a Swahili thing to it, just because they're just trying different ideas,
right?
And there were so many different artists, and finally Waylon just got tired of waiting. He goes, "Man, this old country boy don't know how to sing Swahili. I'm out of here." So he is not on the record. But
Willie didn't know where he was at.
I just thought there's just the things you learn is just funny. So now it's not going to be that long until spring football.
No, it's right around the corner. And with February being the month that it is being short, we'll be in spring practice here, and it will seem like it would happen quick. And then and it sounds like he's just going to use 13 practices and use the spring game on the 18th as being the last one, which I appreciate. And I agree with his comment about just because the NCAA says that you can have X amount of practices or X amount of hours doesn't necessarily mean that you have to use those. And that was probably the thing I loved best about what he said, Shannon. I've never heard a coach talk. You usually only hear coaches bitching about, well, we didn't have enough time. We only had 3 weeks to do this or that. And he's like, if you can't get your stuff done, then, that's on you. And I'm like, wow, very cool. And he's using it also philosophically from the kids' perspective in terms of injury, overuse, things of that nature that he doesn't want to place upon them, whether it be spring ball, which there is no scoreboard, or fall camp. And I was the same way. I mean, I didn't feel like 25. I thought I could get things done in 19 to 20 practices in the fall as opposed to 25 to 30. I didn't necessarily feel like you need those extra days if per se. But it's going to be here. It's going to go quick because of, how it's laid out. There's no couple practices, spring break, come back, couple practices, and then go. But it'll go quite quickly. It'll be an interesting spring. I think it'll be good to get an idea of what he's got, the competitions that we're all likely to focus their eyes upon, and also to see where they're at depth-wise on defense. I think that's going to be the biggest question for them defensively, is where they're at depth-wise and whether or not they may need to go out and find something from a depth perspective.
Yeah, looking forward to that. What are you expecting from differently in spring, in the spring game this year than say or if it's a game, whatever, it keeps changing. Under Tom Allen, it became, I don't even know what it was. What happened to the days of the old-fashioned spring game?
Well, I don't know. That was always kind of the thing that you kind of pushed for and rewarded the kids with, to do a little fun, hold a little draft, type of thing. Divide up the teams and play as much as a true game as you possibly could. Now, he may very well be the guy that does that, because that feels like, if I had to guess, that's what he will do. But at the same time, we've also seen those modified scrimmages where they do X amount of plays, offense versus defense, in the normal zones, and then do a little bit of short yardage concepts, and then the 20 and in, and then finally the goal line, and that's it. But I would, if I had to guess, I would lean towards more of a divided up and a game. And the reason why I say that, he has to get a feel for those quarterbacks in terms of what they, do under pressure when the coaches are behind the white lines and they're the only ones standing out on the field directing the offense or defense. And whether or not, the other thing is communication. Because if they do the communications in the helmet, which I think that's probably going to happen, they'll have to get used to that as well. But to me, I think you got to find under fire, at the quarterback position, what you have, what you don't have, who's going to be those guys. How does Taven Jackson compete against O'Rourke, Tyler Cherry, Brock Lowry, to get an idea coming out of spring of where you set in that room.
Looking forward to that. What is expected for this team to do in between then and now? Just rest, just get ready.
Well, they'll do some things that here as they progress towards spring. I'm pretty sure they'll probably do a testing day where they max out and also do what they call their NFL pro day. That's usually sometime prior to spring ball, or at least it's always been in my mind, I guess, that way. So probably see some things that they do through the weight room to get themselves some ideas on paper and baselines on a lot of stuff. And then, of course, into spring ball there in March.
Shannon Griffith, Hoosier Tailgate. Give him a follow, and you can always catch him right here each week on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you, sir. Looking forward to it. And for our good friends up in Fort Wayne, make sure you catch Shannon on Sports Rush tomorrow, right after Indiana Sports Beat Radio. And just keep it tuned there if you're in Fort Wayne, and you can catch Caleb and Kenny each morning as well. So back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
All right. How do you like me now? Now that I'm on my way. I can't believe you don't consider Toby Keith on the older side of. I mean, I know he's not like a.
Well,
pioneer.
he is. There's. Well, part of it.
Here's the thing: Toby Keith is interesting because he's been around for a long time, but he's also still relevant now. He was still making music.
I meant to tell this story tomorrow. And remind me to tell it when we come back. But I saw Toby Keith when he was a nobody.
So what year was that? Maybe like 93, 94?
Probably. Ish.
So did he already have should have been a cowboy, or was it before that?
I don't remember, but there was a bar in, did you notice Kurt Signetti said Louisville?
I didn't even pay attention to that, but that's funny that he said that.
I did.
And that's surprising because he honestly has the kind of accent where you would assume
I
he would
would've-
just say Louisville.
Exactly. I was thinking that very thing. But I saw him when there was a place called Coyotes that was in Louisville.
I've heard of it.
And they did this, had these 3 people come in at once, kind of a little bitty concert thing. One of the guys, I couldn't tell you who it was. If you said, I'll give you $1 billion, I could find out by researching probably, but obviously he didn't make it. The other 2, one was Toby Keith. The other was a female who was bigger than Toby Keith at probably after they
Who
got
was
rid.
it?
Shania Twain.
I was going to guess Shania Twain. Believe it or not, I was going to say Shania Twain. All right, here we go. I'll let Kyle know we're ready for him, so he should be on shortly.
And within the Stonecrest golf community, choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Rebesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Thursday. Man, this week flew, last week flew. We've been having so much fun every day. Looking forward to continuing that today. Cal Neddenriep from the Indy Star expected to join us in a little bit. After in the next hour, Chris Denari of the Indiana Pacers and Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. He's normally on with us on Wednesdays, but we swapped it around, and he'll be with us. And then tomorrow, Bob Kravitz, Zach Osterman, Casey will join us, and special guest Steve Risley tomorrow. Looking forward to that. Kyle Neddenriep, how are you, sir?
Good. How you doing, Jim?
Good, sir. I expect this is going to be a busy Thursday night for you.
Why is that?
Well, aren't the boys playing most of their games on Thursdays right now?
No, actually, it moved back this week because girls are in their regional round, so they're playing Saturday now. So it's kind of back to the usual Friday night schedule.
I was able to get down to Heritage Hills when they played Boonville, I think, and you can just watch Trent Sisley play and just like, oh man, this guy's a real deal. Although he did not get to do the things that you will see him do later. He's, having to play center for Heritage Hills, which is not where he'll be playing later. And man, they play hack-a-shack basically. He, had cotton shoved up his nose from getting his nose half broken and just beating on him. And he still scores 24 points and you don't even know it. But man, he is just he's a great kid, great family. He's that prototypical Indiana farm boy, schoolboy basketball player that most people have grown up watching, hearing about, wanting, etc.?
Yeah, people know his name. He's kind of a guy that he seems like he's been around for a while. So people have known him since his freshman year, even probably before that. I went down actually to do a story on him prior to his freshman year, even starting, and his brother also was an Indiana All-Star, so there's some name recognition with what he did also. But Trent, at that point already, you kind of knew he was going to be a little bit different. Just a guy who could, score in multiple ways. Like you said, kind of that small town, Southern Indiana persona to him, and but he's also a kid I think who's really improved a lot. He's a really hardworking player. You've seen that. If you saw him play in person, I'm sure you noticed that too. But he just really gets after it, super competitive, and also is has good size to him in a game that really is pretty versatile. He can do a lot of different things on the basketball court. But I just think he's gotten a lot stronger. Some of the things that come naturally, also that he's just gotten stronger and more physical player, than he was early on, and he just keeps getting better. So. I know his that was probably the nights you were there that Notre Dame, IU, and Purdue, I think, were all in the gym together to watch him, all three head coaches. So that kind of shows you where his recruitment is, based on that. And then there's some others too that are in the mix. Iowa, I know Michigan State has been part of the process for a while. It's been more of a Midwest recruitment, in-state recruitment type of situation. For the most part, and I kind of anticipated it will stay that way.
He's not leaving the borders of Indiana. Wherever he ends up, it will be within the confines of the state of Indiana. That I will guarantee you.
Put it on the board, according to Jim.
It's easy though. I get Indiana, Purdue, and Notre Dame to choose from there, and that doesn't even include Butler. Why they're not recruiting him, I don't know, but.
Well, maybe they know something too. I mean, you don't want to waste your time if you already know. But yeah, I think that's probably accurate. Like I said, some of those other ones, like Michigan State, almost feels like an in-state team to a certain extent. The way they recruit this area, I don't know. I think you could probably make a pretty good guess. It also depends on how situations change. I mean, he's got a little time to see. What personnel situations look like, and how things kind of fall out going into next season throughout the spring and whatever. So there's a little time for him to kind of look at rosters and things like that. So, but yeah, I would say that's probably pretty safe assessment of it.
Yeah, and normally I wouldn't go out on a limb like that, but I'm pretty confident in that. But as far as when he does get to college, wherever that ends up being, whether it is IU or Purdue or Notre Dame, I see him as a 3. I mean, he's a solid 6'7", and somebody the other day said, "Oh no, he's not that tall. He's only 6'5", and I'm like, his dad had us take a picture together, and I'm like, dude, I'm 6'1", and he made me look not 6'1". I was like, wow, he is a solid 6'7".
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how people just always have negative things, not just about him, but just high school players in general. It just amazes me throughout the years I've been doing this. But yeah, I would say he's 6'7". I mean, from everything I've seen from him, he doesn't look 6'5" to me. I'm pretty good guess. Obviously the roster, sometimes you give an inch or two, but
absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, he looks 6'7" to me. So yeah, I think he's a 3. Like you mentioned, I mean, for his high school team, and I know sometimes it's frustrating for him because he's obviously the center of attention, and he has to do so much for that team. But that's a credit to him too, because he does do a lot of things. I mean, he has to play inside. He goes outside too, but obviously they need him to be a force inside, or they're not going to have any chance at all. And he does that. He rebounds, but yeah, I like him facing the basket. He's athletic. He can get around people on the dribble. And I think he's going to be a good enough defender for that position too. I guess the jury's out on that still, but I think he's obviously played at a really high level of AAU, and he's really done well with this high school team. I saw them play at the Southport, the Forum tip-off, and they lost to Guerin Catholic. And you watch that team play, and it's like, man, I don't know how good are they really going to be. And then they've gone out and played really well all season, and so that's a credit to him too. So. I would like to see him play again, and hopefully will before the season's over. But yeah, he's a one of a kind type player.
And another thing, I hate to see, and boy, Greg Rakestraw joins us each Monday. When I bring this up, boy, he's all about Indiana high school basketball, which is great. I love that because he's the best at that. I hate seeing guys like Jalen Harrelson and Kanan Catchings. Those guys they're not going to be on the Indiana All-Star team. They're not going to be able to be considered for Indiana Mr. Basketball. And Indiana misses that. You miss out when you don't have your guys included in that stuff. I just think that they should still be there. I don't understand, especially with the all-star team. If you want to not allow them to be considered for Mr. Basketball, that's beyond my pay grade. But there's no reason why I don't think that they should still be considered for the all-star team if they are one of the best 12 players in the freaking state.
You mean if they're still playing in Indiana?
Yeah, even like they're playing for La Lumiere.
Yeah, they actually had that. This is years ago when Hunter Perea was at La Lumiere, and they put him on I think it was the junior team, and there was no rule at the time against doing that. And Charlie Hall, probably smartly for ticket purposes, put him on the junior team. And I apologize if I'm not remembering this right, but then the next year, I believe they put in a rule saying, you have to be an IHSAA school to be on the senior team at least. I'm assuming that means the junior team too. But those are coaches that run that. I get it. They're leaving the association, or they're leaving the IHSAA schools. So it's sort of apples and oranges type of thing. But yeah, from a fan perspective, it'd be great if Harrelson would be on that junior team, and I don't know if he would even want to, or I'm sure he would, but yeah, I don't know. At the time I remember thinking like, well, why wouldn't you put Perea on? There's no rule against it. Obviously he's gonna bring a crowd, it's just more interesting if he plays in it. I think part of that too is though you're taking someone off the team who is an IHSA player, and that's where the coaches are. The coaches who help select that team are coaching the IHSA. So that it's just I think that's kind of what it comes down to. But yeah, from a fan perspective, you want all the talented kids on, and Catchings obviously moved out of state, so he wouldn't be eligible anyway. But Harrelson's certainly still playing within the borders.
Indiana recruiting, Purdue recruiting, they've kind of right now they have flip-flopped from I shouldn't say flip-flop. Purdue was kind of always been that way, but Indiana used to be this way as well. Half their team would be in-state players because this state puts out a ton of talent. Now, you cannot have a roster full of guys from Indiana, although Purdue damn well tried, and they got freaking close. I mean, they're like 80% something. It's nuts. But is Indiana, I don't want to say done damage, but is there any kind of a disconnect in state recruiting because they've gotten so far away from it?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now it's just a momentum thing. I mean, and you see, I think there's obviously Matt Painter is so entrenched at Purdue. People feel like they know. I thought it was interesting the picture they showed at the Heritage Hills game where Painter's up there sitting with the crowd, basically, which is what he always does. I mean, every game I've ever covered, that's just what he does. He'll sit in the back row or sit in the middle, somewhere, and have a conversation with people in the crowd. I think there's just part of that people feel like they know Matt Painter, because he's been doing it for so long, and they know he recruits the state really well. He knows the coaches. There's just kind of a respect factor there. I'm not saying it's not there for Coach Woodson, but because he's from here too, obviously, and people know who he is. But I think it's just a tradition right now. You see all those kids on the roster at Purdue that I've covered and people have seen play here over the years, and it goes all the way. Not even the star players, but they've got guys who are walk-ons. They've got guys on the coaching staff too, like PJ Thompson, who he's a name that people remember, who played at Brebeuf and went to Purdue. So it's not only the head coach, it's other coaches on staff. So and the team. So it's just I think it just sort of is. Maybe that's and they were that way under Gene Katie too. I mean, it wasn't like they didn't recruit the state, but I think right now it's just so entrenched who Purdue is. People know who they are, what they're about. And they just do a good job of getting kind of who they want, who fits what they do really well. To me, that has less to do with IU than who Purdue is, and I think that's just part of it right now. It's kind of like when Brad Stevens was there at Butler, you kind of knew who they were, and they got a lot of in-state kids, and IU's got their share too. I mean, it's not like they've completely missed the boat on everybody in the state, but yeah, I mean, it's like I've told you before, it's a problem not getting in-state kids when you're not winning, and then you see other schools like Purdue who are winning and have in-state kids. So that kind of adds to the fury of it all.
What is up next for you?
I got a story came out this morning on Kevin Massey from Franklin Central, who he's coaching on their staff. He's a guy who had a brain tumor back when he was in high school in 2010. wasn't supposed to live longer than 9 months, and then had a brain hemorrhage, and he wasn't supposed to live longer than 24 hours. And he's continued to. He graduated from college. He was on Kentucky's student. He was a student manager at Kentucky for 4 years, and then came back home to Franklin Central, and he's been on their staff, and just a super guy, like very, self-deprecating, kind of a smart ass, which I enjoyed talking to him for like an hour. Just, very laid back, funny guy. And, doesn't know what his prognosis is moving forward, has no idea. Every scan he goes in, they're like, oh, the tumor has not grown. So it's just kind of a blessing, but he's also a guy who tries to get the most out of his life. And by being around basketball, that really does that for him, and goes to every practice. He's at every game. It's just a pretty cool guy. I mean, really one of those people in high school basketball that maybe you see him and don't know his story. And it was interesting to talk to him and people about him and just what kind of guy he is. So check that out. That's out this morning on IndyStar.com.
Yeah, very cool story, especially with the coaching change and trying to wonder, because that's something he's obviously been a part of and means so much to him. But he was wondering if he was going to get to continue that. But it's great to see how people know about things before you think that they know about them sometimes.
Yeah, it was funny. He went up to I kind of led the story with that. He goes up to the school to sort of confront Kyle Ballard, the new coach there, and say, hey, do you want me or not? And Ballard had known him and he was going to call him and invite him to be on staff anyway. So, but it was just funny the way he put that. So, but yeah, appreciate that. And yeah, fun story. It's kind of fulfilling to write stories like that and tell what's going on in his life.
Make sure you give Kyle a follow and stay up to beat to what's going on in Indiana high school sports, because he's got it all covered at the Indy Star, man. Appreciate you so much.
All right, Jim. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Kyle Neddenriep joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Up next, the great Chris Denari and the Pacers. Talk to see how they're keeping things rolling right after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Formerly,
What's up, guys?
I need to get in the driving dish, baby.
I am using my phone again. For whatever reason, my monitor on my connected to my MacBook is not showing my camera. I know the camera works, but for some reason it's toggled off. I have no idea. So this
It's okay.
works.
You sound good on the phone today.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. I've got this big stand that I bought during COVID, so it works out well.
Trade deadline coming.
Yeah, let's see, 5 hours.
The good thing is, you know your name won't be on it.
That's right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see across the league how much activity there is there. I mean, there's already been, when the Pacers make the move for Siakam, and there've been already a lot of big deals that were done early. So,
Man, have you ever lost a laptop in an airport?
I heard you talking about that. What happened?
I think they must have taken it out, like run my bag back through and taken because the thing is, the airports are not the same. I think at Indy, you don't have to take it out now.
Right. I do. Let me tell you this. So that happened to me I just remember this. That happened to me in Atlanta when I was going to South Africa about 6 or 7 years for the NBA. And it was one of those, again, where it went through, but I called the airport and they had it. And when I flew back through, I got it.
I couldn't believe that. Well, the first thing I thought I left it. I went down to Montverde to watch some guys play. I'm like, I must have left it there. I don't remember, but I didn't even realize it until I got to an IU game and it wasn't in my bag. I'm like, What the hell?
But so you have no idea then where it is?
I had no idea for a couple of days because then I checked where I stayed and I'm like, damn it. And then I'm like, airport? And so I look up Orlando's international airport's lost and found. I send an email. The next day I get I describe it. Next day I get an email back. Yeah, we got it. And I'm like, what? I was shocked that they was so quick. Number one, number two, that they had it.
Now, do you have it back already?
It's on its way. I should have it tomorrow.
Well, that's exactly then what happened to me. But I fortunately was flying back through to get it.
Honda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Thursday, and Chris Denari with us, voice of the Indiana Pacers. Big game tonight as they welcome in the Warriors and Trace Jackson Davis, as a matter of fact. Is he still on their roster right now?
He is on their roster. I saw that he's going to do a 5:45 meeting with the media. So 5:15 will be Rick Carlisle. 5:30 will be Steve Kerr, and then 5:45 Trace Jackson Davis. It's been interesting because there are games and stretches where he'll play a lot. He started 3 games. He's played 36. Last night he played, I think, the last 3 minutes of their win against Philadelphia. So they're coming in on the second night of a back-to-back. They've won 2 straight. It is their 5th and final game of a road trip. So hopefully the Pacers can use that to their advantage. They won big last night over Philadelphia. Steph Curry only had 9 points, 2 games after he had 60. So, tonight's always, there's going to be a big crowd, of course, that are, Steph Curry fans. I mean, that's what happens throughout the country. But Pacers, this is an important game for Indiana. It's the final game before they head out on a 3-game road trip before the All-Star break, and a chance to gain some ground on Philadelphia. Philadelphia is without Joel Embiid now for a long time, and I could see Philadelphia dropping in the standings, gives Indiana a chance to rise in the standings.
Yeah, and there'll be a lot of IU fans there, of course, I'm sure, enjoying that and hoping that he gets to play. But that doesn't always work out that way. Pacers have won back-to-back games, Chris, which is good, something that they want to see, but also still working on getting Tyrese Hurton back to full health and then getting Tyrese Halliburton and Pascal Siakam blended in together and then everything rolling.
Yeah, what we've seen in the short amount of time that they've played together, along with the starting lineup that includes Nembhard, Neesmith, and Turner, is those net numbers have been huge. Very positive with that starting group playing together. And Pascal Siakam's been everything that I think anybody had hoped for. I mean, he's got like 4 or 5 straight games of 20 points. He's blended in well with Tyrese. Again, they have not played a great deal together because Tyrese has been on the minutes restriction. But Tyrese played about 29 minutes in the win Tuesday against Houston, so that was good.
Yeah, and looking forward to that as he continues to look like he is going to be fine. And this could be one of the best ads for a team. And they didn't do this in this last minute trade, so they thought this out, and the trade was made before this period. But this was just another great pickup, just like Obi Toppin was.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting Pascal Siakam as a 2-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA player, won a title in Toronto, and Toronto's not the same team. They've sort of dismantled things. Fred VanVleet is now in Houston. OG Anunoby is in New York. Pascal Siakam now with the Pacers. So those are 3 guys that were important to their run when they won a title a number of years ago. So Pascal has said that he had always identified Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner as 2 players that he thought he could excel with. And that worked out to the Pacers' advantage. They had to give up Bruce Brown. They had to give up some first-round draft picks. But I would say that with the roster that the Pacers have, they have a very young roster, a very talented young roster. Getting 2 more draft picks this summer, I don't see how that would have helped Indiana. But getting somebody of the caliber of Pascal Siakam and adding him to this mix. You mentioned Obi Toppin in the offseason they acquired. Aaron Neesmith, they got 2 years ago in a trade with Boston, has played tremendous basketball for the Pacers. So, it's just, a tip of the cap to the front office. And, Jim, that's why Tyrese Halliburton is so valuable. Because, one, he's an all-star. He will start in the All-Star game here in Indianapolis in a week and a half. He should be an All-NBA player this year, and people want to play with him because he is a pass-first point guard who can also score. I mean, he's averaging 23 points and almost 12 assists. Players want to play with players like that, and so that's an opportunity for the Pacers, of course, to use Tyrese Halliburton to attract other talented players.
Absolutely, and that is people think that way in college now as well. That has been the case, but it's the same with the pros, man. They want to win. Yeah, they're getting paid, then they're making great dollars, but you play to win the game. Yep. To quote one of the great quotes, I can't even think of his name right now. Former Kansas City player and Arizona coach, Herm Edwards. Yeah. You play to win the game. Yeah, but they want to win championships, man. They want the bling.
Your legacy is determined by winning. I mean, in any sport. I mean, you hear golfers talk about that, NFL, coaches, college, whatever. Your legacy, your legacy is determined by how you perform on the field. And yes, money's important. We all want to make money in everything that we do, your job, my job, professional sports, but you also want to be judged by how you perform. And I can assure you that this is a group the Pacers have not been in the playoffs in 3 years, and it's had a pretty rich history of being in an NBA Finals, being in multiple Eastern Conference Finals. And so this group wants to get the Pacers back to where they feel they should be. And so, yes, you're making a lot of money. You're a professional athlete. But again, at the end of the day, you will be judged by your peers by how you performed on the floor. Did you contend for championships? Did you win this? Did you win that? And that's what these players are trying to do.
Now, Indiana plays at home against the Warriors before going on the road to New York, to Charlotte, and then to Toronto before coming back home for a 4-game homestand. So they've got to get back out on the road before coming back to get 4 more at home. Important to get this win at home. This will be 3 in a row. That's how you hit the road.
Yeah, no question. I mean, because you go to New York. Ironically, Jim, you go to New York and Charlotte, 2 places that we just were visiting. The Pacers lost a close game to New York and then beat Charlotte. And then for the first time, you'll go to Toronto, and that'll be the return of Pascal Siakam against his former team. And then you have the All-Star break. And then you have that 4-game homestand. So, yeah, I think this is a very important game tonight. Again, you have Golden State on the second out of a back-to-back. You need to take advantage of that. Get that win, be 30-23 heading out on the road. And, you'd like to win all 3, but ideally anybody would say if you could win 2 of the 3 on that road trip, that'd be a nice way to go into the All-Star break before that 4-game homestand.
Also, piece in the Star by Justin DePirick, our good friend who comes on Mondays, talking about how Buddy Hield's teammates have said, hey, they want him to be around and would love for him to be a part of this.
Yeah, I mean, Buddy's a tremendous asset in that locker room. Even if he's not making 3-point shots when he's on the floor, he's always a threat. His numbers are down a little bit this year. His playing time down a little bit, averaging about 12 points, shooting 38% from 3. He's traditionally a 40% 3-point shooter. You and I were talking, the trade deadline is today. We'll see what happens across the league. I think the Pacers, I don't know what they'll do, if they'll do anything on the edges. They feel like they made the move they had to make to get Pascal Siakam. But we'll just have to wait and see. But I believe that they like what they have. Buddy is an expiring contract. Obi Toppin is an expiring contract, but he's a restricted free agent. So the Pacers in the summer can match any offer that Obi gets. They'll have to look at all that. If there are offers made to them, yes, they have to look at them. They don't have to take them. But I do believe they like what they have now. They're in a good position, but you just never know. I think out of the blue 2 years ago, I don't think any of us thought about the Tyrese Halliburton for Domantas Sabonis trade. And that happened and has benefited both franchises. So it's always an interesting day across the NBA. Much will be made about this trade and that trade. Thus far in the last day or so, it's been pretty light, but it could pick up by later this afternoon.
Make sure you catch up with Mr. Denari tonight on the broadcast. Looking forward to it. You and Quinn Buckner.
Yep, we will be there. 6:30 pregame show, 7 o'clock tip on Valley Sports Indiana. Should be a lot of fun.
Chris Denari, I can't thank you enough, my friend.
All right, thanks, Jim.
Hope to see you soon. We've got more coming up on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. The great Rick Bozich joins us from WDRB.com after this.
We'll be right back for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
In the market.
Morning,
good
Rick.
day, Richard.
How are you all?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Are you going to Lafayette Saturday?
I am not. Someone asked me that, and I'm like, I forget. What did I say? It was because they didn't get my response, but it was funny. I said, I'm not going to the. Damn it. What did I say?
Probably called it the bloodbath. You've said that a few times today.
Yeah, I don't think it was that, but it was generally that, a bloodletting of sorts. Could they surprise us? Yeah, they could. Do I expect that? No. And by surprise, I mean be within 10. I don't want to necessarily use the game in Bloomington as a barometer, but that was the worst home loss to them since, was it 39 or 34? I keep forgetting, but it doesn't really matter.
1930s. It's enough for anything.
It was worse than anything Archie Miller had done. So that stopped the presses. That says it all right there. And he lost to him like 7 straight times. So
I haven't checked on Little Rhodey. How's he doing?
Lil Rhodey is they're not doing good. Free throw shooting, they're like 6 from the bottom as well. His team. Then I checked. His team.
They're 10-11 this year, and last year they were 9-22. So
they're 11. They're 11-12.
Whatever I'm looking at must be a little bit behind.
That's an improvement. I saw a picture of him. I believe it was at Dayton too. He was standing about this far out onto the court in play with an opponent almost stepping on his feet.
Well, he got beat 96-62 at Dayton.
No surprise. And then I saw Kelvin Sampson pull a Mike Davis last night running out onto the court. And I'm like, you know what? That deserves a suspension. I don't care who you are.
He did it intentionally.
Yeah. But
they were way ahead in the game and he got tossed.
But do it from the sideline. You trust me, you can get a technical without having to run onto the floor.
Kelvin will be at Cincinnati on Saturday if you want to go say hi.
I've got no issue with Kelvin Sampson. He's a very good coach.
Yeah, he is.
All right, here we go, guys.
Gourmet meal at home, or pick out a tomahawk steak or a grouper filet and enjoy it cooked to perfection in Chop Shop Steakhouse. Chop Shop Market and Table, a part of the Wild Food Group, is your butcher, baker, and fish house, no matter where you live.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville and Evansville. Pizza, burgers, beer. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle. Presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Thursday as the week is starting to close in. Big upset in college basketball last night as Wisconsin loses their 3rd straight, Rick, and this one to Michigan, who some people think is the worst team in the Big Ten. I think Ohio State's the worst team in the Big Ten. But they can fight that out later. But wow, for a team like Wisconsin to go on a 3-game skid this time of year, that's not a good sign, but a little surprising more than anything. I thought that, I don't know, maybe it was the loss to Purdue that just took air out of their sails. And I get that. That was a huge loss, such a tight game, and it was right there for the taking. And that would have had major implications in the Big Ten conference title race. And so they know that with that loss, they're out of that race. And that obviously had a mental effect on them.
Yeah, and before that, they blew I think a 17 or 18 point lead and lost the game at Nebraska in overtime. So that was back-to-back gut punches. And their schedule the rest of the way is not easy. They still have to play Illinois and they got to go to Purdue. So the team that was once in the driver's seat in the Big Ten has found out how hard it is to win a conference title. And I think the deeper we go into the season, we have clear evidence that Purdue is the best team in the Big Ten.
Oh, without question. Not only that, the Big Ten is starting to really water down a little bit. I thought that Wisconsin and Illinois, those 3 at least were going to be kind of pretty solid, but man, it's looking like Purdue and the rest. Wisconsin's going to be in the tournament. Illinois is going to be in the tournament. I think Northwestern gets in the tournament.
Probably.
But it's just, man, it's a fall off. There's a fall off after Purdue.
Yeah, what's amazing too is you look at Indiana and Michigan both have the same record overall, 14-9, 6-6. And somebody tweeted it out today, and I'm going to look it up right now. But the net ratings of the two teams couldn't be more different. Michigan State has a respectable net ranking, and Indiana doesn't. And I think and the Michigan State doesn't really have that many quality wins. But the difference is that Indiana has some bad blowout losses. Michigan State's 24th. How's that? In Indiana in the net, still searching.
Well, that's just like them getting a quad. They get a quad one win at Ohio State, and I'm like, how the hell is this a quad one win? Because I was thinking, how in the hell is Ohio State in the top 75? And yet they were. I doubt that they stayed there throughout the season, but it turned out that they were like 67th, and I'm like, how's that possible? They suck. But they got some good wins early.
Michigan State's 2-7 in quad one games, and Indiana appears to be 1-7.
1-7.
It's not a huge difference. The difference is this margin of victory do matter. Indiana got blown out by Purdue. They got blown out by UConn. They got blown out by Auburn. And a lot of the games they played against the lesser opponents on the team, they didn't win by very much. And that's what's killing them in the net rating. When people talk about the frustration of the Penn State game, which was awful, it's been frustration really over the entire season. From the very beginning against Florida Gulf Coast and Army, this team has very rarely played a complete game of basketball where they've gone out and dominated somebody. And because of that, that's why they're in the position they're in.
Not only that, if you look at Ken Palm in the 90s, you don't have to go far. Just look in the 90s, and you'll see Rutgers sitting at 94th, Indiana sitting at 96th, Michigan at 97, and I thought there was one more, but maybe not. But
Michigan's at the bottom, so they're next to the last.
Yeah, they're just the metrics do not like the Big Ten, but yet their conference as a whole is ranked much higher than what I'm seeing when I watch games. I guess I'm missing something.
Yeah, I mean, it's Ken Palm has them ranked the fourth best league behind the Big 12, Big East, and SEC. The difference that I see when I watched Auburn and Alabama last night, it's a different style of basketball where they're going up and down, and you see a lot. I mean, you see better athletes. The Big Ten is still too physical, in my opinion, and people have complained about that for the years, and they put that on the list of reasons the Big Ten teams have often underachieved in the NCAA tournament, that the style of play that they're allowed to get away with in the Big Ten is not allowed in the NCAA tournament. So, you know, we'll see. The only team the Big Ten has that can win a national title this year is Purdue. That's it. I can't see Illinois or Wisconsin or Northwestern doing it. And the Purdue is probably the only team, maybe Illinois. I don't know. I haven't seen them enough, but they might be the only team that can get to the Final Four.
I think that Purdue's the only team that can get to that. Well, I shouldn't say that. The hell, you never say never. March is just crazy. It's about matchups. Hell, Michigan State could do what they did a year ago and go on a run. They're not playing like they did a year ago at this time. But yeah, the Big Ten just is losing steam, while the Big 12 staying strong. Although Kansas, man, every time I turn around, Kansas is losing to somebody.
Kansas had some bad losses, but they have some very good wins. So, you know, I think Kansas is probably a top 10 team, not a top 5 team, but they've got some top 5 wins. So we'll see. I mean, at this point, I'd say it's UConn, Houston, and Purdue have all separated themselves. They're the 3 best. They're the 3 most likely number 1 seeds. The 4th number 1 seed, I think, will be debated the rest of the way, whether it ends up being North Carolina or it could be, maybe Marquette. I think I'm forgetting somebody, but those are the big 3 at this point. Arizona is another one, but Arizona has some really bad losses.
How about how about the win of Kansas over Houston? I mean, they just
Impressive.
beat the crap out of them
Yeah.
from the word go, and it never changed. I'm like, man, they just came out. It was a fist fight that they lost, and they never recovered. And I thought Houston was a team that I would put money on making the Final Four, but I was like, ooh, wow, that's kind of an ugly loss.
Let's see what they have. There's the rematches in Houston the last Saturday of the season, so we'll see if the Jayhawks can repeat that on the road. We'll see. I mean, Kansas still has several. They got to go to Baylor, they got to go to Houston, they got to go to Oklahoma, they got to go to Texas Tech. 4 tough road games. So Ken Palm has them. Kansas is 6-4. Ken Palm has them splitting their last 8 games in the Big 12.
We'll look forward to that. And Auburn, Bruce Pearl has them playing very good basketball. That's a team that could very well wind up in the Final Four.
They're good. I mean, when I watched them play Indiana that day, it's the best team I've seen all year in the way they played that game. I mean, let's remember that Indiana was ahead by 10, and I think Auburn outscored them by 40 the rest of the way. And they almost put 100 last night on Alabama. They scored 99. They're good. They're deep. I'm not sure they have like 1 or 2 like super elite players like they had a couple of years ago when they had Smith and Kessler, but they've got a lot of really good players, and they do have a good postman in Johnny Broom, and he had a big game last night against the Crimson Tide. And Bruce Pearl's a good coach. They're to me, they're the team that not enough people are talking about for some reason. I think Auburn is really good. And after last night, they're probably tied for first in the SEC. Yeah, they are. Alabama, South Carolina, and Auburn are all tied atop the SEC, and Tennessee's 4th, and Kentucky, as good as they are, is in 5th place in the SEC.
Yeah, they're. I was thinking earlier. I was like, wow, Louisville. That program is really wrecked right now. Indiana is not very good. And Kentucky they're okay, and that the fans are they're not happy either down there. They're tired of being just okay. The SEC has caught up to Kentucky more than Kentucky regressing. It seems like the SEC is kind of caught up.
Yeah, I mean, the SEC over the last 5 or 10 years has made an effort to invest more money in basketball and hire better coaches, and those guys are recruiting better players. And what set Kentucky fans off is they lost 2 home games last week. They lost at home to Florida in overtime, and then Tennessee put 103 points on them and beat them in Rupp Arena. And they look at the SEC standings and see themselves 5th, and they look at their team and say probably not going to go to the Final Four, which would mean they haven't been to the Final Four now. It'll be 9 years, and that doesn't go over very well, especially considering how much talent that John Calipari has come through there. When the NBA All-Star game comes to Indianapolis next week, I believe there's 7 Kentucky players in there. And, when you've had that much talent not to get to the Final Four, people wonder what's going on. So, yeah, he made I didn't see it all, but I think after they beat Vanderbilt the other night, he made a cryptic comment about the criticism that he's getting from fans and the media. So I think Cal's starting to feel a little bit of the heat.
Does he care? He's got a lifetime contract, man.
I think he cares because he has to live there, man. I mean, it's a smaller town. I mean, you still got to live in the place, and you got to go to the arena, and people say things, and he cares. I think everybody cares when they're a coach. They all say they don't care, but they do care.
If you were picking your top 4 seeds today, and I'll give you mine first. I'm the 4th. I'm not sold on just yet. Houston, because of that loss, but they're still sitting at the top of the Ken Palm rankings. Purdue, obviously, solid number 1. Nothing is going to take them out. UConn, no doubt. I've got Auburn as the number 1 seed, and I guess you have to defer to Houston because they're still. That next game with Kansas will be telling. If they lose that game, then I'm probably going to bump them, which. I don't know who takes their spot. Kansas is. I'm not sure that they're a number 1, but I've got 3 out of my 4 filled.
Yeah, I would go with Houston, Those would be my 4 right now. I'm looking at Lenardi. He's got Purdue, UConn, Houston. He's got Carolina. I wouldn't go with Carolina, although their one loss was a game they should have won, could have won against the bad Georgia Tech team. But, I've seen Carolina play. I've seen Auburn play. I like Auburn better.
The big scuttlebutt with Indiana fans right now is Anthony Leal has to start. Anthony Leal must start. Anthony Leal has to start. Anthony Leal needs to start. Anthony Leal deserves to start. I don't know of any other adjectives I can pull out, but I'm like, gee whiz, people, do you all even know what positions these guys play? But it's great that he's having success. It's great for Indiana and Indiana fans that he's had some success, but don't forget that has come against the worst team in the Big Ten and one of the worst teams in the Big Ten.
Start ahead of who? Gabe Cupps?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what fans want. Yes.
I don't know if he has to start. I think he's
not a point guard, number one.
He has to play more than he played for the first half of the season when they had a team that has the issue that they have of not being able to make threes or not being interested in shooting them. He's a guy who can shoot the ball. He's got defensive liabilities, and he still, when he plays against really good defenders, he's going to have a hard time getting loose and getting shots off. And I think he's also a guy that has to be more aggressive and looking to shoot. That was the problem I saw when he did get to play before, is he didn't look like a guy who was comfortable taking shots. He was willing to defer to other guys. So I think he needs to play more, whether he needs to start or not. I don't really think it matters. I mean, the collection of pieces they have, it isn't going to make that much of a difference. I look at the way they're going to, and they got 8 games to go. I mean, they might win 3 of the 5, 3 of the 8. What do you think?
I think that is the absolute tops. Someone asked me that question on responding to the show yesterday, and they said about going 7-1, and I'm like, 7-1. I said the odds of Indiana going 4-4 are astronomical, as in winning the lottery high. I said 3-8 would be an accomplishment. I'm thinking very possibly it's 2-6 that they finished the year out.
Ken Palm's got them going 3-5, although he doesn't have them favored in any game. They're not going to beat Purdue. Then they got 2 home games, Northwestern and Nebraska. Let's say they get one of those. At Penn State, we're all going to say they can't win because Penn State dominated them, but Penn State's not that good. I'll say that's a loss. That's 1-3. Come home in Wisconsin, that's 1-4. At Maryland, 1-5. At Minnesota, 1-6. Michigan State at home, 2-6. I mean, 3-5, they're going to be doing good. They are.
I agree. I absolutely agree. Khalil Ware, he's been battling through injuries, and then when he tweaked that knee the other night, that sent lightning bolts through Hoosier Nation. And I saw it, and I was like, I cringed because I saw that knee move, and I'm like, oh, that's not how you want to see it happen. But whether he plays or not on Saturday is probably going to be up in the air.
Isn't Mike Woodson, is he talking today or tomorrow?
Yeah, and he gave a response a little bit ago about that.
Oh, okay.
And I'm trying to get it pulled back up on whether or not on what he said. But he's not – I would imagine that he's not going to give that answer just because of gamesmanship, if anything else.
Good luck if they go into West Lafayette without Khalil Ware. Who's going to guard Edey then?
Yeah, that's
Walker, I guess. It can't be Peyton Sparks.
Well, I mean, put the beef on him, baby. Hack a shack. But he's too good of a free throw shooter. You can't do that.
Yeah, I would go with a quicker, more mobile guy. And the Walker would be my choice. That's who I'd go with.
Mike Woodson did say that Khalil Ware had yesterday off, and he did go through treatment after his awkward movement on the fast break at the end of that deal against Ohio State in Tuesdays. Indiana will know more about his status after today's practice, which is what I expected. Like I said, they're not going to say either way. So, Ruby. Honey, are you mad at your man?
Hold on.
But yeah, they absolutely have to have a Khalil Ware, and if he's not healthy, that adds to the problem for Indiana, because Purdue is not only do you have Zach Edey, but you have a lot of guys around him that are very talented. You've got several guys that can shoot from the perimeter, whether that is Braden Smith, whether that is Fletcher Lawyer, whether that is Lance Jones, whether that is Mason Gillis. They've got so many guys that they can bring in, and Indiana is going to have to stay out of foul trouble up there as well. And that guarding Zach Edey and Mackey is going to be difficult. It's going to be loud. Purdue wants revenge because they got swept by Indiana last year and embarrassed at Mackey. And so they've already delivered a big dose of that back to Indiana at Simon Scott Assembly Hall earlier, but they want another one. And I don't think they want to just beat Indiana. They want to beat them badly.
Do you? Because Indiana swept them last year and made a big deal over it?
Yeah.
Could be. I don't know. I don't know if it really matters. They're so much better. And Indiana has no answers for Edey. That the line's going to be probably what, about 16, 15?
You know, I was guessing. I'm like, what would it take for me to bet that game? Because I'm like thinking, I was thinking it was going to be 14. I'm like,
and Tom has 19. 19. Wow. Bart Torvik has, yeah. Would you take Indiana in 19? Bart Torvik has 21, buddy. Would you take Indiana in 20?
No, not at Mackey. Not at Mackey, and not with, even if Khalil Ware plays, I don't know how he would be completely healthy. And even if he is healthy, all right, so it has to be Renew guarding Zach Edey, right? Among the starters. What's Purdue going to do with Khalil Ware? That's a question. What, I can't remember.
I don't think they're that
last time. They're not. Well, obviously, I was going to say I can't remember what they did at Simon Scott Assembly Hall, but it worked. It was good enough. Indiana just doesn't have enough to compete with what Purdue has around Zach Edey. Zach Edey's going to get what Zach Edey's going to get. You're not stopping it. It's all the other things that Purdue brings.
At home in 1, 2, 3, 4, I think five Big Ten games at home. Purdue has only won one by 20 or more. That was against Michigan. So I don't know. I mean, I think the point spread will probably be about 17 or 18. Who knows? It might be affected by what Vegas can find out about what Khalil Ware's status is. For me, Indiana's, it's got to be, the judgment has to be on how hard they compete and play hard. That was the difference in the Ohio State game. I thought in the second half that Galloway, Renew, and Leal decided that they weren't going to lose that game. They weren't going to get embarrassed. What were they down by? 18 points? And that was a change.
18-point deficit.
You had guys who decided they were tired of getting embarrassed. And the way they played against Penn State was embarrassing. It really was. They didn't compete, and that's on the coaches for sure, because it's their job. But it's also on the players, man. You can't play with that little energy or pride and get beat like that by the worst team in the Big Ten without its best player and a first-year coach rebuilding a program at home. That's embarrassing. And you know, can they sustain a little bit more of that drive over the last 7 games or 8 games? Well, they better, or they'll get embarrassed some more.
Absolutely. And and another thing, Indiana fans got to get over. Stop crying that Zach Edey camps out in the 3-point lane. He does not. He keeps a foot in, he lifts it up, and that's, once you do that, you restart the clock. He doesn't have to camp out anywhere. All he has to do is catch the ball, take a step backwards, because whatever is behind him is going to move like a landslide in California. But we'll look forward to see what gets going. What is up with you this weekend?
Well, tonight actually I'm going to a really big women's game. Notre Dame, which is a top 15 team, and Louisville, which is a top 15 play. It's on ESPN National here at 6:00. I know Indiana plays at home tonight against Michigan State, which is the big game for the Hoosiers. And then Saturday I'll be here. Louisville, which should have beat Syracuse last night, but lost by 2 at the buzzer. Comes back home and tries to win its second home game in a row. They beat Florida State over the weekend. They got Georgia Tech, which is a winnable game on Saturday as we continue to watch the future of Kenny Payne unfold.
Yeah, that's not I think we all know where that
30 seconds.
Going. Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Make sure you're following him. You'll stay up on everything if you do that. And we appreciate you, sir. Look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yeah, I'm going to get up to one more. I'm going to get up to one more game. I haven't picked which one yet, but I'm going to get up to one more game.
Remind me when you're coming up, brother.
I will. Thanks, Jim.
You betcha. Thank you. Big thanks to Shannon Griffith from Hoosier Tailgate for joining us today. Kyle Neddenriep from the Indy Star. Of course, Chris Denari of the Indiana Pacers. And the great Rick Bozich. John, the producer, for keeping us between the white lines. Most importantly, thanks to each and every one of you. Happy birthday, John, on the Andy Moore Honda hotline, by the way. And we're back tomorrow to do this all again. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat.